Hello, this is Craig Lane with Health Alchemy, our third part podcast of Health Alchemy Explorations, currently just running on YouTube, but we're going to be expanding this into Substack and iTunes and all that later. And this is my dear, I like to say my dear friend, Kelly Dearie, just perfect Dearie. And let's see, I met Kelly when Gabe was 5. What was that? How long ago was that then? 15? How old's Gabe now?
No, you met us when Gabe was 3
Oh my God.
or even maybe younger. You know how I know that, Craig? It's because Charlie was 32 years old
Oh.
when we made that appointment with you in that time of utter desperation and despair.
Oh my God, it was 3?
And yeah, and the light of God literally shone through your eyes and gave us hope. I will never forget that, and I will never forget you and what you did for our family, Craig. It was one of the biggest blessings, and it set us off on a journey, a spiritual journey that we have never come back for, and we will never stop. We will never stop. This journey has so much love, and we are now living in a house of miracles because of what you allowed God to do through you, Craig.
I mean, I broke it down again at the last community dinner, Kelly. The diagnostic term, which I now, having worked in retail, I call it a bureaucratic emotional sale. That horrible sounding diagnosis, right? It's scary. What his diagnosis was, I was like, and then but that's my job, is to say, well, let's break that word down. And then I think that was the starting point, wasn't it? When we broke the word down, it was like, oh my God, it's not that awful.
Yeah. Idiopathic thrombocytopenic purpura. How do you say the last one?
I know the last one, I don't remember it entirely. Idiopathic thrombocytotic purpura.
Thrombocytopenic purpura.
Some thrombocytotic or cypina or something like that, but it broke down to thrombocyte, which is a platelet, and I'm like, oh, it's a low platelet causing purple bruising that they don't know how it's caused.
But it's when you looked into his eyes and you said, you don't need to have that surgery. Don't let them take out your spleen. You need your spleen. And you looked and you said, and you know what? I'm not really going to help you much. I can tell by looking at you that you're already going to heal because it's coming from within you. You saw that in him. You reflected back to Charlie, 100% confidence. And what's so cool about that, Craig, is because I've gone on to research miracles since then, because I've seen so many miracles in my life. Like it's definitely a book, just straight up miracles, healing miracles, spiritual healing miracle. Like it just goes on and on. And, but like one of the things I researched was Dr. Dyer. He has a whole book and sermon on miracle healings. And what is it about all these miracle healings where people were told, you have a couple weeks to live, you've got this, you've got that, you're going to die. And what was the one common denominator? Like you and I would want to say, oh, it's nutrition. No.
Right.
We know that's super important. And obviously you need the good building blocks to build the good body temple. But what it was, well, actually, do you know what every one of those people that he interviewed had in common with all the people that had miracle healings?
I would likely say they had the grace of the divine come through them on some level.
That's one part of the piece. But the interesting thing, and I kind of assumed it was going to be just what you said, but it was actually the person who appeared, the individual who appeared before that person, just like you appeared before Charlie, who reflected back at them 100% confidence in their ability to heal completely. Not 99.9999%. That's not how faith works.
Right.
It doesn't work like that. 100% confidence. That person looked and knew they were going to be okay. It literally shone out of their eyes and reflected back. And that was the one common denominator. And it wasn't how many people prayed for them, how often they prayed. I mean, I'm sure that played a good part,
Right.
but they needed that one person. And so can we as individuals be that one person in someone's life? We would have global healing. We would have healing like we've never seen before on the planet with just that one simple truth. Could you just imagine how different the world would be if everybody knew that one simple truth, starting from birth?
Got it. Just the light bulb. So I have an autobiography. It was a series of journal entries that became an autobiography that still isn't published, but there's a chapter in there, and I call myself a gatekeeper. A gatekeeper, because there's so many freakish stories like Charlie in my life. And after Charlie, when I was with Noelle, she was a Abraham Hicks fan. You know, that's the whole secret thing. So I went to my first and only Abraham Hicks convention, 350 people at a Marriott in San Francisco. And I shoot my hand up, and her whole family is addicted to Abraham. And they call me up. And they've never been up. And they've gone like to 5 or 6 each. And I shoot my hand up and I'm like, me? And she's like, yeah, I'll come on up, And I'm like, wow, I'm up with Abraham Hicks. So here's the question that years later after Charlie, I have delivered to me from the Abraham channel. And it's that I ask, what are people looking for when they go to their doctor? What is it how can I be better at what people are actually looking for? And Abraham says, they don't give a crap what you know. They don't give a crap about your knowledge. They want to look into your eyes and see that they're going to be all right. They're looking for that reflection that you're going to be all right. You have the power. And in the Mayan tradition, in the dream spell, that my birth sign is a white self-existing mirror in their tradition. Like Gene's got some other glyph, but when I saw that, I was like, it just affirmed my entire purpose here. Like you said, reflect.
Oh, wow. White
White.
self-existing mirror. Mm. So I'm yellow overtone star, and supposedly we make the best teachers.
I wish everybody would do the dream spell. It's just a pretty cool tradition system there. So you see, they're pointers, right? We get these pointers and they're affirming because our ego likes to have validation, right? Oh, I had my divine insight. Let me go get the science formula for that, and there isn't really any science to the divine, but there's things we can monitor downstream that point towards that, right? Like all these things that get shown to us.
Yeah, I mean, I believe there's a spiritual science. Rudolf Steiner was the master of notating that and researching and going deep within that. And actually, I would say I agree with most of his conclusions.
Mm-hmm.
I might not be the most popular person for saying this right now, but I agree with Steiner that Yeshua is the highest commander.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've had so many instances of prayer and meditation and desperation and just backtracking over and over, because there's many different ways to go about solving a problem, to going about finding enlightenment. There's many different ways, lots of different ways to healing, but there's only one way that I've found for that healing to actually be lasting, as opposed to just coming and going. And I've had too many experiences like I said, too many blessings, too many experiences to keep quiet and because I don't want people to think I'm not cool. Because honestly, like saying you're a follower of Jesus it's not cool anymore. It's not cool. People they turn away. They don't want to. They're scared. They don't want to think that could be a path for whatever reason, you know? And it's, I guess I'm coming out, Craig. I'm coming out here on your show.
Well, there's another pointer, the 12 steps in AA. What are the first 2 steps, right? You're powerless against your human cravings. Second step is surrender your life to a higher power. I mean, it right there in AA, you know, that's what they strive for. Okay, I'm powerless against my human dualistic earth suit cravings, you know, and that's not entirely true. We do have power over our cravings, but surrendering our life to a higher power, that's like when I awoke and when I had my awakening experience at 25, everything I thought was love was garbage. And it's exactly as the text said. All the text on enlightenment, Ram Dass, you know, all that stuff I was reading earlier for a couple of years, I was like, oh, it is exactly as they said. Human love seems puny compared to when you just break open for a moment and that divine love, grace shoots in. It's like, oh my God, wow, we've been sold short, this tiny little thing.
Right. Right. And I mean, I guess this is a good space to be totally vulnerable and open. And I'm going to go for it, Craig, because I don't know if I've even told you my full story.
I was going to ask you a bunch of questions, as you can see on the question list. There are a couple of them, and so you're probably going to answer one of them or 2 of them right now.
Well, the childhood, I saw your childhood question that you sent. It said, what was the most significant moment, I think, in your childhood? And I was like, I don't know, being born, I guess, just being born. I mean, honestly, like, what is more significant than that, you know? But now, wow, okay, well, I'll just have to say, did I ever tell you about when I tried to end my life?
No, but I mean, that's going to help a lot of people if you tell your story. I'm open and honest about mine, the ideations.
Yeah, I've never told this in a recorded interview before, so this will be the first time.
Wow.
So I went through a phase. It didn't start with a car accident, but the car accident was the crux of my complete mental breakdown. I had frontal lobe damage, and they didn't realize, like, I couldn't make any new memories. Like, nobody diagnosed me properly. And let me just go. I need to give you a little background on my life before this. Like, far from following Jesus like I do now. I was my moral compass wasn't just like going south, Craig. It was freaking spinning. That's how I can describe my life. The drugs I was doing, the people I was ending up with in beds.
How old were you?
I don't know how I survived.
How old were you?
Craig?
So people can understand how old you were during this.
Yeah, this was so Charlie and I, you know, we're high school sweethearts, and this was actually a year and a half when we were apart.
Okay.
And of course, like, we weren't angels leading up to that. We just partied all the time in high school. You know, we got through high school. All we did was party. That was our religion, right? Partying was our religion, having fun. That was it. I mean, that's just, you know, like most high schoolers.
Right.
Most high schoolers, right? That's your religion. Party, have fun. And so, but when Charlie and I split up, yeah, I was like 20, I think, or 19, maybe. And we were, you know, went our separate ways. And we were all still kind of living on our own. outside of our parents, for the first time. Maybe I was like 18, I don't know, but just out of high school. And yeah, I was doing some gnarly drugs, gnarly like methamphetamine. I was just whatever would come in front of my face. And somehow I was able to hold down a job. And the sad thing is I was a preschool teacher. Those kids loved me unconditionally. They loved me unconditionally, no matter how messed up I was. They would look at me with love, only love, and just wanted to be right by my side. I don't know, like the light of God just shines through young children. And I've seen the healing power, that has, and the effect that has on the hardest of hearts and the saddest of minds. And anyway, so I just kept on with this really dangerous lifestyle. And one day I got into a horrible car accident. It was raining. It was on Highway 9. I ended up doing a head-on collision with a big truck. And I still have scars. I had scars all over my whole face. I still have some scars to this day, and a big one on my shoulder because they had to pull so much glass out of me. And that was before airbags. And I had frontal lobe damage, but it was undiagnosed. And while I was in the hospital, they let me out just like in one day. I think I just stayed one night because I could remember, I knew my name.
Right.
But I didn't know anything about reality and how it functioned at all, Craig. I didn't even know how the monetary system worked. I thought I really believed that you could just like go in with like garbage pail kids anywhere and pay for things. That's how confused I was. That's how confused I was. And basically I went completely crazy. I was delusional. I thought there was a government conspiracy with aliens involved, and everybody that was around me was spying on me and following me. And this went on for days and weeks. Not only that, but my mind was so messed up that I was in a parallel dimension. I was diagnosed with acute schizophrenia actually later on. But what would happen is you would tell me a sentence but I would hear every single word before you said it, right before you said it. Not only that, I would be aware of your thoughts and every noise going on around you as well and around me. And it was almost like we have these wonderful, beautiful filters called a brain that are designed to protect us and keep us comfortable and navigating through life, right? As we were intended in our natural created form. And that filter was so disrupted that everything was coming in all at once. So it got so bad that my parents sent me to a mental hospital. And I saw all these even more messed up people, or just as messed up people around me, which really scared me. Really, really scared me. And I hadn't slept, I think, in 7 days. There was also a whole thing with Hell's Angels, and every time I hear motorcycles, I thought they were coming for me and they were eventually going to kidnap me. It was just, yeah, this goes on and on and on. But they would give me these drugs and they keep checking on you throughout the night. And so I'd pretend to take them. But I didn't take one. I just knew it wasn't good. I knew it wasn't, and I thought there was some weird thing, and they were trying to entrap me into this system where I was going to be like some of these other people that have been coming there for years and never escaped. There's a lot of truth in that.
Right. Right.
And so I'm in this mental institution, just so confused. Where am I? What is this? What am I supposed to be thinking, feeling, doing? But most of all, how do I pretend to act a certain way so I can get the hell out of here? So my brain's like, hey, I've got to figure out the rules. I've got to figure out how to act so I can get out of here. Even though I know I'm crazy and I know like all these things, or maybe I don't know I'm crazy, but you know, now I do. I was batshit crazy. So, and I mean, yeah. So anyway, time goes on and I finally figure out how to keep my mouth shut, when to say things, even though inside I'm just like, I have no idea how reality works. I'm totally confused. I don't know what's good. I don't know what's bad. I don't know everything's still spinning. That compass is still spinning, just like it was when I was doing all the drugs and lost, totally lost. But I figured out how to get out in a week. They sent me with all these drugs. Still wasn't sleeping. My parents, it's probably been like 2 weeks then since I'd actually slept. Just laid awake all night. Wow. For nights on end. And then there was this big blue pill. I don't know if it was like Zoloft or something. And my parents are like, "You're gonna take your pill, right?" Because they could tell I was still crazy. They knew me. They knew it didn't work. And so they knew I wasn't sleeping. I think I told them. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna try this pill. It was freaking huge. And I swear, when I looked at it, it was like I could see skull and crossbones, like the symbol of the whole symbol of death, like the Grim Reaper, and everything it represented would just come through my soul when I held this pill. But I was like, well, I haven't been sleeping, so I'll just try it, even though it's going against everything that my intuition is saying is good for me. But I was already screwed up, so why not just put it in? So that night, infinite doors. Every door in the entire universe, Craig, that has ever existed since the creation of doors was shutting on me. I was laying there, and every time a door shut on me, I would sink to a different level of hell. And the next door would shut, and all doors just kept shutting on me. And the darkness kept consuming me until finally there were no more doors. And I was rotting in the earth and becoming compost, and worms were coming in throughout my body and composting me. And then, of course, so I didn't sleep. So much for the sleep.
You didn't sleep, really?
No, and I went crazier. But the one thing I knew is I couldn't take any more of the pills that they were offering.
Right.
So I figured that out. So then I don't know, the timeline of all this is confusing, but I don't know if it was like the next day or a couple days after. I had already gone to the bottom, right? I couldn't go down any further. I'd already composted.
You were composted, so, you know.
Right. And I remember sitting on my bed, just not knowing what to do. Do I get up? Do I just pee in the bed? Why not? What's the difference? Why should I go pee in the toilet? That's how fucked up I was. But I remember every time I would try to just reach out to something good in this universe, I'd close my eyes and sit there, and I would literally feel this cracking open of my skull, and I'd feel these tingly little rays of light like coming out of my skull. Not like God's bringing it in, it's coming out through these cracks in my skull. Like, I don't know how to describe it, and it felt so good. These little tingling sensations. And so every day at some point, I was still in a state of despair and confusion and utter disillusion, but that kept happening. And so and I didn't take the pills. I knew not to do that. after that experience.
Mhm.
And eventually, well, oh gosh, yeah, I started having more of these bodily experiences, like this kind of feeling. I guess people would say a Kundalini chakra awakening, where I'd be standing there and it was like all of a sudden I'd have this like full body orgasm throughout my body, like this light that felt so amazing throughout my body. And I kind of went with that and I was like, okay, well, this is better than, I don't know what it is, but it's better than what was happening before.
Right.
And so this one came over me and I was like, you know what? I I need to fix my brain. My brain is broken. I would say that was maybe a week or two after the whole death and all that composting. I need to work on my brain. I know I need to do that. I know the drugs aren't going to do that for me. I'm going to fix my broken brain, because I told you I couldn't make any new memories.
Yeah.
So like you and I having a conversation, if I didn't write every single thing down, Craig, I wouldn't remember anything we just talked about. So I don't know if you could picture what it would feel like to try to navigate through life like that. Plus, not having a firm moral compass where you're just whatever's in front of you is what's in front of you, and that's going to be your authority.
Yeah.
How scary is that?
Yeah.
Whatever Satan or God's putting in front of you is going to be your authority. That's a scary place to be. And what's scary is actually a lot of people on our planet live like that.
I had a client like this. He was a genius. It was, I can't name him, but you might have sent him. It was close to a decade ago. And he was a genius savant. Google executives, Intel executives would come to him, but his wife had to manage his life because he was completely immersed in the moment for 30 years. Don't remember why. It might have been a traumatic brain injury. And then slowly over 4 or 5 years of working with the head of 5 branches, this amazing osteopath, and myself and one other healer, he got his memory back. He was in his late 60s. He cried openly in front of me when they came back. And I got my life back.
It took me about a year to finally get my memory back. I could remember past things that happened in my past, but a lot was gone, a few things. But the current was the hardest. And just to give you an example, I remember, so I decided in that moment, I need to fix my brain. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to enroll, even though I don't even know how I'm going to get there. I'm going to figure it out. I need to have, my brain needs something to do and something to work at so I can rebuild it. So that was why I went back to college, or I think I'd maybe taken a couple classes before the accident that I went to a community college. I I couldn't drive. My dad had to drive me to college. I had a notebook. I couldn't make sense of anything, even on the first day, that any of the teachers were saying. Just getting to a class was so hard. And I just wrote down every single thing they were saying, and I'd have to read each thing like 5 times, and something would start to kind of make sense and integrate, and I'd start to have an understanding of the information little by little. It was so overwhelming. I was taking early childhood education classes, and I told my dad I needed some materials. Could you drive me to the store so I can go purchase some materials? He said, sure. He sat in the car and he said, do you want me to go with you? And I said, no, I need to learn how to do this by myself. And I was so scared. So I went into the store and I had to find things. I had a list and I had to ask people for help. And I was so it was so overwhelming, Craig. I really believed I was in there for an hour, and it was so intense. Just to confront another human was so intense and so scary, and hearing what they were going to say before they said it on top of that was so confusing. But then to try to make sense of what they said, because I could hear the words, but it didn't make sense. And so I'm going, and then I'm thinking they must think I'm so crazy. They're looking, then there's that going through my head all at the same time. And then meeting certain men and the horrible things that are going through their mind when they're looking at me that I'm experiencing because I'm so psychically blown open.
Yeah.
And those thoughts were so that they were having were so repulsing and frightening for me. So I'm going through doing this, right? I remember, and then I finally get up to the counter to pay, and I was so scared to try to come up with the money to just pay for those things. Something I had done since I was 7 years old. I could barely do, and I somehow did it and came out, and I got to the car and told my dad, I'm like, I'm so sorry. Was I in there? I must have been there for over an hour. I'm so sorry you had to wait so long. And he goes, it was only 10 minutes. So the way I describe it is like, you know, getting a hold of a sheet of acid.
Yeah.
And you lick the whole thing. And time, everything's just blown wide open. And so I was like that. I had to exist like that for about, a year. And but yeah, I did try to, at one point I did sit in the middle of a highway, and a big truck was coming, and slammed on the brakes. And so I'm still here.
That was the moment the truck driver took notice of you and instead of hitting you, stopped.
Yeah. And eventually, I don't know how, but I do know how. There were angels, human angels, that literally were sitting around me and that I just felt some kind of a trust with, who actually helped me. And one of the teachers, her son was going through the same thing, had frontal lobe damage and couldn't make new memories and was going through a similar experience. And so these, individuals came in to support me and mentor me, and I would go and do classwork and they'd help explain things to me. And slowly but surely, in about a year and a half, I had a fully functioning brain again. But my moral compass was off. I didn't have all the information I have now. And so I was still doing things I shouldn't have done. And then a year and a half, this is like I said, after Charlie and I split up. So a year and a half later, I'm driving, I have a car, I have a little dog, a puppy. I'm sort of like on the up and up. I actually had good grades, whatever. I'm at a stoplight. I look up in San Jose. What was the population back then? Probably like 600,000 or something when I was, I don't know, 20. I look up and there's Charlie in a dump truck at the stoplight next to me, driving a dump truck. And I'm in the little Toyota. And we just look at each other. And that's how we got back together.